Every single one of us made a promise once, a promise to become more, to rise higher, to live with purpose. But somewhere along the way, life got noisy. We got distracted. We forgot who we said we'd be. This right now is the moment you take it back. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need to decide, lock in, eliminate the noise, reclaim your focus, because the version of you that's been waiting, the one that's disciplined, powerful, unshakable, is still there. And it's time to finally become the person you promised yourself you'd be. When you make a real decision to change your life, something shifts inside you. It's not a casual thought. It's not a maybe one day. It's a lock-in. It's when you decide that nothing, no distraction, no fear, no excuse is going to pull you off course anymore. Most people never reach that level of commitment because they leave the back door open. They keep a backup plan, a just-in-case path, a little comfort zone to fall back on. But when you truly lock in, that door gets slammed shut. You burn the boats. You stop negotiating with your potential. See, locking in is not about doing more. It's about deciding that this vision, this goal, this standard is non-negotiable. It's about saying, I'm not hoping anymore. I'm claiming what's mine. When you reach that moment of absolute clarity, your mind and your energy align. The noise quiets down. You stop chasing everything and you start moving with purpose. You stop dabbling and you start dominating. Most people don't fail because they're not capable. They fail because they never commit all the way. They dip their toes in, test the waters, and when it gets uncomfortable, they pull back. But nothing legendary has ever been built by someone who only tried halfway. Locking in means you commit even when you're scared, even when you don't see all the steps, even when it doesn't look like it's working. You trust yourself enough to stay the course. Think about it. Every breakthrough you've ever had in your life came after a moment where you said, I'm done playing small. Maybe it was when you decided to change your body, your career, your relationship, your mindset. You hit a point where you couldn't tolerate being stuck anymore. That's the power of locking in. It's born out of a moment of truth when your old story becomes too painful to live with. When you're locked in, there's no more debating whether you'll show up. You just show up. You don't ask, do I feel like it today? You just do it. You don't check how motivated you are. You don't need motivation. You've made a decision. You've crossed the line between interest and commitment. Interest says, I'll do it if it's convenient. Commitment says, I'll do it no matter what. This level of decision changes your energy. People feel it around you. Opportunities open up, not because the world suddenly changes, but because you do. You walk different. You speak different. You operate from certainty instead of doubt. And certainty is magnetic. It pulls the right people and the right chances toward you. But to lock in, you have to give up something. You have to let go of the old habits, the old distractions, the old identity that kept you comfortable. You can't become the person you promised yourself you'd be while holding on to the version that keeps making excuses. Every transformation requires a trade. You give up your comfort to gain your calling. You sacrifice short-term pleasure for long-term power. When you're locked in, the world will test you. Life will throw delays, disappointments, and distractions your way to see how serious you are. Most people see that as a sign to quit. But when you've locked in, you recognize it for what it is, a test, and you don't back down from tests. You use them to prove your commitment. The truth is, there's freedom in locking in. People think discipline is a cage. It's not. Distraction is the real cage. Distraction keeps you spinning in circles, constantly starting over. When you lock in, you free yourself from that loop. You give yourself direction. You give yourself peace. Because there's no more indecision. You know who you are, you know what you want, and you know you're not stopping until it's done. And I'll tell you something, once you experience that feeling, that full body commitment, you can't go back. You can't unsee your own power. You cannot feel that certainty. You start realizing that everything you've ever needed was already in you. You just had to stop scattering your focus and start channeling it. Locking in is the beginning of transformation. It's the point where you stop waiting for the perfect time, the perfect circumstances, or the perfect motivation. And you start creating momentum with what you have right now. Because if you're always waiting for the right moment, you'll be waiting your whole life. There is no right moment. The moment you decide is the right one. So if there's a voice in you that keeps whispering, it's time, listen to it. That's your future self calling you forward. Stop talking about what you're going to do. Stop promising yourself you'll start next week. Lock in now. Cut the distractions. Burn the excuses. Because the moment you do, the world will begin to respond differently to you. When you lock in, you stop trying and you start becoming. Every single day, you're surrounded by noise, notifications, opinions, scrolling, endless information fighting for your attention. The world has never been louder, and that's why most people can't hear themselves anymore. They've lost the signal beneath the static. They wake up, grab their phone, and instantly step into 1,000 other people's agendas. Before they even take their first breath of clarity, they're already distracted, already reacting, already pulled away from what actually matters. Distraction isn't harmless, it's expensive. It costs you focus, energy, progress, and peace. It robs you of your ability to be present with what you're building. Every moment you give to distraction, you take from your destiny. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or passion. They fail because they can't stay focused long enough to finish what they start. You have to understand focus is power. When your attention is scattered, your power is scattered. The reason some people seem unstoppable isn't because they're smarter or luckier. It's because they know how to guard their focus like their life depends on it, because it does. You can't create something meaningful when your attention span is fractured into 100 pieces. You can't build consistency when you're constantly being pulled into comparison, consumption, and chaos. The people who win in life have mastered one thing. They protect their focus from the world's noise. They decide what matters and they shut the rest out. If you want to become the person you promised yourself you'd be, you have to stop living distracted. You have to stop giving your best energy to things that don't move you closer to your vision. Think about how often you reach for your phone, how often you scroll just to escape boredom or discomfort. Every one of those moments is a withdrawal from your potential. It's not about discipline for the sake of being strict. It's about reclaiming the energy that's being stolen from you. Distraction is seductive because it feels productive. You watch motivational videos, you read posts, you gather inspiration, but you never apply it. You end up consuming more than you create. And that's how the trap works. You feel busy, but you're not moving. You feel stimulated, but you're not fulfilled. You confuse movement with progress. To truly eliminate distractions, you have to be ruthless about what gets your attention. That means auditing your environment. Who are you spending time with? What conversations are you entertaining? What habits are keeping you comfortable instead of committed? If you surround yourself with people who settle, you'll start to settle. If you live in chaos, your mind will stay chaotic. You have to design your environment for focus. Silence is not your enemy, it's your superpower. The reason most people avoid silence is because it forces them to face themselves. But that's where your clarity lies. That's where you reconnect with your direction. You can't hear your instincts when you're constantly stimulated. You can't feel your purpose when you're addicted to distraction. This is where self-leadership begins. You have to make the decision that your mind will no longer be a playground for distraction. You have to take control of your space, your schedule, your digital life. Turn off notifications that don't serve you. Set boundaries around your time. Create rituals that anchor your focus. Morning routines, journaling, workouts, reflection time. These are not luxuries, they're necessities for staying grounded in a world built to distract you. And don't mistake rest for distraction. Rest is recovery, distraction is avoidance. Rest refuels your energy, distraction drains it. Learn to rest intentionally, not escape mindlessly. When you rest, you're preparing for what's next. When you distract yourself, you're postponing what's next. At some point, you have to get honest with yourself. You have to look at where your time goes and ask, is this helping me become who I said I would be? If the answer is no, it has to go. You can't hold on to distractions and still reach your potential. You can't be halfway in and expect full results. Your dreams require bandwidth. They require space. They require you to be fully present. That means clearing out the clutter mentally, emotionally, physically. You can't keep carrying the noise of the world and expect to hear your calling clearly. The most powerful people in the world operate from simplicity. They remove what doesn't matter so they can pour everything into what does. So take a step back. Look at your life like an architect. What in your environment supports your focus? What breaks it? What needs to be deleted, limited, or redesigned? Every notification you silence, every hour you protect, every distraction you eliminate, it's not a loss. It's a deposit into your future. Because when you finally strip away the noise, something beautiful happens. You start to see your life clearly. You start to feel your power again. You stop reacting to everything and you start creating again. Focus sharpens. Energy returns. Progress accelerates. And suddenly the person you promised yourself you'd be doesn't feel so far away. The world will keep trying to pull you away. But when you're locked in, truly locked in, nothing outside of you has that power anymore. Protect your focus like gold because it's the foundation of everything you'll ever build. There was a time in your life when you believed you could be more. When you dreamed with fire in your chest. When you said to yourself, one day I'm going to do it. I'm going to change everything. You may not remember the exact moment, but you remember the feeling, the hope, the certainty, the hunger. That was the promise you made to yourself. And somewhere along the way, life got louder, the world got heavier, and that promise started to fade under the weight of distractions, disappointments, and delays. We all do it. We get busy surviving, managing, reacting. We put that vision off until later. But here's the truth, later is a lie. Later becomes next week, next month, next year. And before you know it, you wake up one day wondering how far you've drifted from the person you said you'd become. There's something powerful about reconnecting with that promise, because deep down, it never really left you. You can bury it, you can ignore it, but you can't kill it. It's still there waiting for you to stop running from it. And the moment you slow down long enough to listen, you'll feel it again. That whisper inside that says, you were meant for more than this. You owe it to that version of yourself who believed. You owe it to the person who saw the best in you before life taught you to doubt. Reconnecting with that promise is not about chasing some idealized fantasy. It's about remembering who you are when you're at your best. It's about realigning your choices with your truth. Because you don't become someone new by abandoning who you were. You become someone greater by honoring who you promised to be. Most people live their entire lives breaking promises to themselves. They say they'll start on Monday. They say they'll wake up early. They say they'll be consistent. But every time they don't follow through, they weaken their belief. Not because of the outcome, but because of what it communicates internally. I don't trust myself to keep my word. And that's the real loss, the loss of self-trust. When you reconnect with your promise, you start rebuilding that trust brick by brick. You stop trying to prove yourself to the world and start proving yourself to yourself. Every time you show up when you said you would, every time you push through when it's inconvenient, every time you follow through on what you said matters, you repair that connection. You start to feel proud again. Not because it's perfect, but because it's authentic. You can't lead a fulfilled life while betraying your own word. You can't respect yourself if you're constantly abandoning your own standards. The version of you that you promised to become, that's your higher standard, that's your compass. It's not a dream, it's a direction. Sometimes it takes a moment of pain to remind you of that promise. Maybe you hit rock bottom. Maybe you looked in the mirror one day and didn't recognize who you'd become. Maybe you realized you were chasing everything except what actually mattered. Those moments hurt, but they're gifts. They're wake-up calls. They shake you out of autopilot and force you to remember, this isn't who I said I'd be. And that realization isn't meant to shame you. It's meant to awaken you. It's meant to light a fire again, because as long as you're breathing, it's not too late to honor that promise. You can rewrite the story. You can change the ending. You can close the gap between who you are and who you're meant to be. But it starts with honesty. It starts with the courage to say, I've drifted, but I'm coming back. You can't change your life while lying to yourself. Pretending you're fine when you're not. Pretending you're trying when you know you're holding back. The moment you tell the truth, you reclaim power. You stop living by default and start living by decision. That's when the promise starts to come alive again. When you reconnect with that promise, your energy shifts. You stop needing external validation because you're finally being congruent with who you are. You start to feel alignment again between your thoughts, your actions, and your intentions. And that alignment is what creates momentum. It's what makes you unstoppable. And listen, reconnecting with your promise doesn't mean you'll never fall again. You will. You'll get distracted. You'll get discouraged. But the difference now is that you'll know your way back. You'll have a reference point. You'll know what you feels like when you're in integrity with your own word. And that becomes your anchor. So take a moment right now and ask yourself, who did I say I was going to be? What kind of person did I promise myself I would become? Maybe it was someone stronger, more confident, more present, more disciplined, more fulfilled. That version of you is not gone. It's waiting for you to stop breaking the deal you made with yourself. Because the truth is, the most painful thing in life isn't failure. It's the regret of knowing you had the chance to become who you promised to be, but you didn't take it. Don't let that be your story. Reconnect. Remember, you owe it to the person you used to be to keep the promise you once made. There comes a point in your journey where you have to stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to want it. Because the truth is, the person you promised yourself you'd become isn't built in moments of comfort. They're built in moments of resistance. When everything in you wants to quit, but you show up anyway. That's where the foundation of your new identity is formed. That's what separates those who dream from those who do. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's not about being robotic or emotionless. It's about making a decision that your future matters more than your feelings in the moment. Because feelings are temporary, but the results they either build or destroy are permanent. You can't afford to let your emotions decide your destiny. If you only work when you feel good, you'll spend your whole life waiting for the right mood. Most people never realize how much power they give away to their feelings. I don't feel like it. I'm tired. I'll do it tomorrow. They let those words write their future. And then they wonder why nothing changes. They wonder why they keep repeating the same year over and over again. It's not because they lack potential. It's because they lack consistency. And consistency is discipline in action. When you start building discipline, something powerful happens. You start to trust yourself again. You start to believe in your own word. Every time you do what you said you do, even when you don't feel like it, you strengthen your self-respect. You're sending a message to your mind that says, when I say something, I mean it. That's how confidence is built, not from hype, not from motivation, but from evidence. Discipline is self-love in motion. It's saying, I care about myself enough to do what's right for me, not just what's easy. It's the difference between short-term comfort and long-term growth. Comfort feels good now, discipline feels good forever. Discipline is what gives you the power to walk into a room and know you've already earned your peace because you've done the work no one else was willing to do. When you live undisciplined, you start to feel powerless. You start to feel out of control because everything becomes reactive. You're constantly negotiating with yourself, constantly giving in, constantly restarting. And it's exhausting, but the moment you decide that your word is law, that when you say you'll do something, it gets done, everything changes. Your energy changes, your confidence changes, your results change. The truth is, discipline isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. It's like a muscle. You don't develop it by doing it once. You develop it by doing it over and over again, especially when it's uncomfortable. The discomfort is the gym, the resistance is the weight. That's where your strength grows. So every time you're tempted to skip the hard thing, remind yourself, you're not avoiding pain, you're avoiding growth. And here's what most people don't understand. Motivation comes after you act, not before. You think you need to feel inspired to move, but in reality, movement creates inspiration. The hardest part is just starting. Once you start, momentum takes over. Once you start, your identity begins to shift. You go from I'm trying to I'm doing, from I hope to I know, but you can't keep waiting for that spark to create it. Every day you wake up, you're making a choice, discipline or distraction, growth or comfort, progress or excuses. And those small choices repeated over time define everything about who you become. There will be days when it feels like you're doing everything right and nothing's happening. Those are the most important days to stay disciplined, because that's when life is testing you. It's asking, are you serious about this, or are you only committed when it's convenient? Every storm, every delay, every moment of resistance is shaping the strength you'll need for the next level. You can't expect to build a powerful life without powerful habits. You can't expect to live like your best self while acting like your old self. Discipline bridges that gap. It's the daily act of aligning your actions with your highest standards. It's not glamorous and it's not easy, but it's worth everything. There's a moment that comes when you realize discipline doesn't restrict your freedom, it creates it. Because when you're disciplined, you're no longer controlled by impulses, distractions, or moods. You become the driver instead of the passenger. You live by design, not default. That's real freedom, the kind that comes from knowing you're in control of yourself. So stop waiting for the right feeling. Stop waiting for someone to push you. Push yourself. Show up when it's boring. Show up when it's hard. Show up when no one's watching. Because that's how the person you promised yourself you'd be is born. Not through one big moment, but through thousands of small ones when you could have quit, but didn't. When you could have stayed comfortable, but chose to grow. Discipline is the moment you stop letting your feelings lead and start letting your standards define who you are. You can have the strongest vision in the world, the most detailed plan, the most powerful motivation. But if your environment doesn't support who you're becoming, eventually it will pull you back to who you were. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Because no matter how big your dreams are, your daily environment is what decides whether they live or die. Look around your life right now. Everything you see, the people, the habits, the routines, the spaces you spend time in, they're all either feeding your growth or draining it. Most people don't realize how much their surroundings are shaping them. They think it's all about willpower, but willpower fades. Environment endures. If you're constantly surrounded by distractions, negativity, or mediocrity, you'll start adapting to that level. Humans are designed to adjust to the energy around them. That's why change feels so hard, because you're not just fighting old habits. You're fighting the conditions that created them. You have to rewrite your environment so it works for you, not against you. It starts by getting brutally honest about what no longer fits. Who or what in your life keeps pulling you back into old patterns? Who reminds you of your past more than your potential? Sometimes the hardest part of growth isn't learning new things, it's unlearning the attachments that keep you small. The people around you are either expanding your vision or shrinking it. Every conversation either raises your standard or lowers it. You know that feeling when you leave a conversation and your energy feels lighter, sharper, more alive? That's alignment. And you also know the opposite when you walk away drained, uncertain, or doubting yourself. That's resistance. And you can't afford to stay in environments that breed resistance if you're serious about becoming who you promised yourself you'd be. Now, this doesn't mean cutting everyone out or living in isolation. It means consciously curating your space. It means surrounding yourself with people who challenge you, who remind you of your power, who won't let you settle. It means being intentional about what you consume, what you watch, read, listen to, because everything you feed your mind becomes part of your environment. You can't watch chaos all day and expect peace. You can't consume negativity and expect confidence. Your mental diet is just as important as your physical one. The same goes for your habits and systems. You can't rely on motivation alone to carry you through. You need structure, routines that make success automatic. Don't leave your growth up to chance. Build systems that make the right thing easy and the wrong thing inconvenient. If you want to eat better, clear the junk from your kitchen. If you want to read more, keep a book within reach. If you want to focus more deeply, design a workspace that eliminates distractions. The little details matter. Your environment should pull you toward your goals without you even having to think about it. It's not about creating a perfect system overnight. It's about creating a better one today than you had yesterday. Every small change compounds. If you improve your systems by just 1% every day in a year, your entire life looks different. Success isn't one giant leap. It's 1,000 small adjustments in the right direction. But here's the catch, you have to maintain it. Growth environments require constant pruning because life has a way of sneaking clutter back in. Distractions creep, bad habits return, energy drains reappear. You have to stay aware. You have to keep asking yourself, is this environment helping me become the person I promised to be or keeping me from it? The answer to that question tells you everything. The truth is, your environment is either an anchor or a launch pad. It's either holding you down or lifting you up. If you're serious about transforming your life, you can't afford to live in an environment that contradicts your goals. You have to build one that supports your identity, reinforces your standards, and aligns with your vision. Imagine waking up every day in a space that reflects the person you're becoming, not the person you used to be, where everything around you reminds you of your purpose, where your habits are designed to help you win automatically, where your energy isn't drained by the unnecessary, but directed toward what truly matters. That's not fantasy. That's design. That's what happens when you stop leaving your growth to chance and start engineering it on purpose. This is how you create momentum that doesn't fade. Because when your environment supports your evolution, you don't have to fight for focus, you live inside it. You don't have to chase motivation, it's built into your surroundings. You don't have to keep restarting, your systems keep you moving. The truth is, you're already being shaped by something. The question is, did you choose it or did you just adapt to it? Because every detail around you is influencing your direction. And if you don't take control of it, it will take control of you. So today, make the decision to redesign your life from the inside out. Build the kind of environment that brings out your best. Create systems that push you forward even on the days you feel stuck. Protect your energy, curate your space. Shape your surroundings with intention. Because the person you promised yourself you'd be doesn't thrive in chaos, they rise in clarity. Design your environment to match your vision, and your life will rise to meet it. Becoming the person you promised yourself you'd be isn't some distant destination waiting for you years down the road. It's a choice you make every single day. It's not about hoping you'll get there someday when things calm down or when life becomes easier. It's about stepping into it now before everything feels ready, before everything makes sense. Because becoming is not about waiting for the perfect moment, it's about creating it. You see, most people think transformation happens overnight. They think one big moment of motivation or success is what changes everything. But it's not one moment that defines you, it's the accumulation of hundreds of small choices repeated with intention. It's what you do when no one's clapping, when no one sees, when it's just you and the quiet voice inside asking, are you still becoming who you said you'd be? That's the real work. The becoming isn't loud, it's not glamorous. It's not something you can post about every day. It's what happens when you wake up and choose growth over comfort, presence over distraction, purpose over procrastination. It's what happens when you start acting like the person you want to be, even before you feel like you are. There's a moment when everything changes. And it's not when you finally achieve the goal. It's when you realize that you don't have to wait to feel ready to live as that person. You can start embodying them right now, the mindset, the habits, the energy, the decisions, the standards. Because when you start acting like that version of you, your external reality begins to catch up with your internal shift. You've heard the phrase, fake it till you make it. But this isn't about pretending. This is about aligning. It's about being congruent with the identity you're stepping into. If you say you want to be disciplined, start showing up with discipline, even in small ways. If you say you want to be confident, speak with conviction, even when your voice shakes. If you say you want to be fulfilled, start living in gratitude now, not when life looks perfect. Because waiting for life to be perfect before you become that person is how people spend decades stuck in the same loop. The truth is, the person you're becoming is already inside you. You're not chasing them, you're uncovering them. Every distraction you cut, every habit you change, every promise you keep is peeling away the layers of fear and doubt that have been covering your potential. You don't have to become someone different, you have to become fully you. And that process requires patience because becoming isn't linear. There will be days when you'll fall back into old habits, when the old version of you whispers, see, nothing's changing. But that's part of the process. You don't erase the old you overnight. You outgrow them, you rise above them through repetition, through intention, through relentless persistence. Every challenge you face is part of that becoming. The struggles, the doubts, the setbacks, they're not obstacles, they're training. They're preparing you for the level you said you wanted. Because you can't become stronger without resistance. You can't build emotional muscle without emotional weight. The moments that test you the most are the ones that shape you the deepest. And that's why you can't just talk about change, you have to live it. You can't keep saying, one day I'll be that person. You have to start being that person today. Because life doesn't respond to wishes, it responds to alignment. When your actions, thoughts, and emotions match the identity of who you want to become, you start attracting opportunities, people, and results that match that vibration. It's not magic, it's integrity. When you move in integrity with your highest self, the world starts to recognize you as that person too. You stop needing to convince anyone, you stop chasing validation, you stop trying to prove your worth. Because you're already living it, and that quiet confidence becomes magnetic. Becoming the person you promised yourself you'd be isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about showing up when it's hard. It's about holding yourself to a higher standard, not because anyone's watching, but because you're watching. You're witnessing your own evolution. And that's the most powerful thing in the world, to look at your life and know you're keeping your word to yourself. You'll reach a point where you realize it's not about achieving anymore, it's about embodying. You stop chasing and start expressing. You stop striving for who you want to be and start living as them now. Because that's where peace comes from. Not from the next milestone, not from the next achievement, but from knowing you're finally walking in alignment with who you truly are. So when you wake up tomorrow, don't ask, what do I need to do to become that person? Ask, how would that person show up today? What choices would they make? How would they handle this moment? What would they focus on? And then do that. One action at a time, one moment at a time, one day at a time, because the truth is you're not waiting to become that person. You're remembering who you already are. Lock in, no distractions, because the person you promised to become is waiting on you.